Beneath a velvet sky, the last chessboard shimmered atop a stone pedestal. Its squares glowed faintly, alive with the memories of ages past. Tonight, the ancient grudge would be settled, not with swords, but with strategy. As midnight struck, the pieces awoke. The White Queen, regal and wise, exchanged a silent glance with her obsidian counterpart across the board. Pawns straightened, knights pawed the air, bishops whispered spells, and rooks braced themselves. Each move pulsed with old magic, every capture echoing with centuries of rivalry. The kings, somber and resolute, watched as their armies danced to the rhythm of the game. Bishops clashed diagonally, knights leaped over allies and foes, pawns advanced with courage, dreaming of transformation. The board became a tapestry of sacrifice and cunning. At last, the Black King stood cornered, his defenders fallen. The White Queen offered mercy, and the Black King, weary, bowed in defeat. In the hush that followed, the pieces bowed to each other. The ancient grudge dissolved as dawn's first light touched the chessboard, and peace settled at last.
The station clock struck midnight, its chime echoing across the empty platforms like a distant memory. Liam clutched his train ticket tightly, eyes flickering between the dim, flickering lights overhead and the distant hum of an approaching engine. He hadn't set foot here in years, not since laughter once filled these halls and whispered secrets passed between old friends. The cold air carried a faint scent of rain and nostalgia. As the train screeched to a halt, a familiar figure stepped onto the platform, suitcase in hand, hair a little longer, but the smile unmistakably the same. "Ava?" Liam breathed, heart pounding, unsure if the shadows played tricks on him. She looked up, recognition lighting her eyes, and grinned warmly. "I hoped I'd see you here," she said softly, voice thick with memory. The years seemed to melt away as they walked side by side, sharing stories of roads taken and dreams chased. Their tickets bore the same destination, a coincidence that felt like fate. Under the station's pale, flickering lights, their laughter returned, filling the cold air with warmth. When the train doors opened, they boarded together, bound for new horizons, hearts lighter than when they had arrived.
Slick rooftops shimmered under the city's midnight rain, each drop casting tiny ripples in puddles below. In the shadows, Mina, a small gray cat with piercing amber eyes, crouched atop a crumbling brick wall. Clenched tightly in her jaws was a tiny, wax-sealed scroll. Her mission was clear and urgent. She leaped down silently, paws splashing softly in puddles, weaving swiftly between glistening alleyways slick with rain. Behind her, distant footsteps echoed, growing louder. Mina darted under a rusty gate, heart pounding fiercely. Wet fur clung to her as headlights swept the street, searching. She froze, then bolted along a narrow ledge, tail flicking for balance. A shout erupted nearby. Mina slipped, claws scraping the rough surface, but caught herself and vanished into a maze of stacked crates. The faint scent of peppermint guided her toward a hidden cellar door. She squeezed through a narrow crack, just as heavy boots thudded dangerously close. Inside, warmth and flickering candlelight awaited. Mina dropped the scroll gently at the feet of a waiting figure cloaked in shadow. The figure knelt, whispering thanks, and scratched her behind the ears with a grateful smile. Outside, rain kept falling steadily, but Mina's message was safe. Her mission for tonight was complete. The clock struck 12 as Lila tiptoed along the silent lane, clutching a small box wrapped in blue paper and tied with a silver ribbon. The moon hung low, casting her shadow long and thin across the cobblestones. Every house was asleep, windows dark, but Lila's heart thudded with excitement and a touch of nervousness. She paused at the last house, where ivy curled thickly around the old wooden fence, and slipped quietly through the creaking gate. Moonlight illuminated the porch, bathing it in a gentle, silvery glow. Lila placed the package carefully on the doorstep, making sure not to make a sound that might wake anyone. She knelt, tracing a delicate heart on the box before standing back, admiring her secret work with a shy smile. Inside the package, nestled in soft tissue paper, was a hand-carved wooden bird, her neighbor's favorite creature. Lila had spent weeks whittling it, painting each feather with care and love. She knew that tomorrow morning, old Mr. Finch would find the gift and smile, believing, just for a moment, in magic again. Lila glanced up at the glowing moon, her mission complete, and slipped away into the night, her heart light and her spirit soaring with the silent wings of her midnight delivery. The horizon crackled with distant lightning, painting the sky in quicksilver flashes that danced across the darkening clouds. Liam glanced at Ava, breathless with anticipation and a spark of daring in his eyes. The wind picked up, rustling the tall grass around them, whispering secrets and urging them forward. Behind, a wall of gray clouds swallowed the sun, its low rumble growing louder, a warning and a challenge. "Ready?" Ava called, her eyes shining with the thrill of the chase and the promise of adventure. Liam grinned, heart thumping like a drumbeat in his chest. They bolted, feet pounding the narrow trail that snaked through the open field, muscles burning with effort and excitement. The storm was a beast, its breath growing colder on their necks, chasing them with relentless fury. Every stride was a challenge, every gasp a promise to keep going, to not let the tempest catch them. Laughter bubbled between them, light and wild, even as raindrops began to sting their faces like tiny needles. The old oak tree by the crossroads loomed ahead, a finish line decided with a nod and a smile, a silent pact between friends. As they reached it, the heavens opened, soaking them in seconds, drenching their clothes and hair. They collapsed beneath the branches, shivering and grinning, the storm's roar now applause in their ears, a soundtrack to their victory. In that wild dash, they had outrun more than rain. They'd proven together they could race the wind itself and win. The city clock struck midnight as Eddie, the paperboy, pedaled through the sleeping streets. His satchel felt lighter than usual, save for one letter that refused to slip through a slot. The envelope was thick, sealed with crimson wax, and addressed in looping script he didn't recognize. He shrugged and turned into the foggy alley behind the old bakery, a shortcut he rarely took. The mist swallowed his bike tires, muffling the hum of the city. A shadow waited near the flickering lamp. Eddie's heart thudded in his chest. He stopped, clutching the letter tightly. The figure stepped into the light, a man in a long coat, brim pulled low over his eyes. "That doesn't belong to you," the stranger rasped. Eddie's knuckles whitened. "I'm just delivering it," he said, voice barely steady. The man's gloved hand reached out slowly. Some things shouldn't be delivered. Eddie hesitated, weighing his options, then reluctantly handed over the letter. The stranger tucked it away, melting into the mist like a ghost. The lamp blinked out, leaving Eddie alone in the thick silence. As he pedaled away, the city seemed quieter, as if holding its breath, the secret sealed once more in the fog.
When the last library light flickered out, a shadowy figure scurried across the marble floor. Remy, the cleverest raccoon in old Maplewood, signaled with a twitch of his striped tail. Four furry accomplices emerged from behind the encyclopedias, their nimble paws silent on the tile. Tonight, the prize was not food, but knowledge. Remy had heard tales of the legendary golden acorn hidden somewhere in the towering stacks. He led his team through the maze of shelves, dodging security lasers with acrobatic leaps, while Hazel, the smallest, squeezed through the book return slot to unlock the main doors from within. The group navigated the Dewey Decimal Labyrinth, deciphering clues from old checkout cards and dusty atlases, their eyes gleaming with determination. Finally, beneath a false bottom in the mythology section, Remy's paw brushed something cold and metallic. He lifted the golden acorn, its surface gleaming in the moonlight like a beacon of triumph. With silent cheers and quick glances to ensure no one was watching, the raccoons vanished into the shadows, leaving only a single paw print on the librarian's desk, and a story whispered between the library's walls for years to come.
Under the moonlit roof of the Maplewood Museum, the night shift guard dozed, unaware of tiny masked faces pressed against a basement window. 3 raccoons, whiskered, bright-eyed, and brimming with curiosity, slipped inside, their nimble paws deftly prying open a forgotten vent. They scurried past marble statues and ancient armor, noses twitching at the promise of mischief and adventure. In the middle of the main hall, under a glass dome, sat an ornate golden box, etched with swirling patterns that seemed to dance in the dim light. The eldest raccoon tapped the glass gently, circling it with intent and determination. Together they worked at the latches with surprising skill, their little claws mimicking a practiced rhythm learned from countless nights of exploration. With a soft click, the glass casing lifted just enough for them to slip inside. The box shimmered, casting intricate patterns across the polished marble floor. The raccoons nudged it open, revealing a glowing gem that pulsed with a gentle, otherworldly light. For a moment, the trio stared, mesmerized by the gem's hypnotic glow and the warmth it seemed to radiate. Then, hearing footsteps approaching from the far corridor, they carefully closed the box and slid the glass dome back into place. With a final glance at the mysterious treasure, they darted away silently, leaving the room exactly as they'd found it, except for a single, unmistakable paw print smudged on the gleaming glass.
The hall was silent, save for the faint ticking of a clock. Two grandmasters sat across from each other, eyes locked on the chessboard between them. Every piece was perfectly aligned, every move a calculated risk. Victor's hand hovered over his knight, then shifted to his queen. His opponent, Isha, watched with an unblinking gaze, her fingers steepled beneath her chin. He advanced the queen boldly, claiming the center with a confident sweep. The audience, barely daring to breathe, leaned forward, caught in the tension. Isha responded with a bishop, slicing through Victor's defense like a blade. The game unfolded in murmurs of movement, pawns sacrificed, rooks unleashed, kings shielded behind walls of strategy. Neither player spoke a word, yet the tension was thunderous, filling the room with an invisible charge. Victor's brow furrowed deeply as Aisha's rook cornered his king, the endgame closing in. He paused, eyes searching for a last hope, then tipped his king gently in surrender. Aisha nodded, victory glinting in her eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the battle fought. The room erupted in applause, breaking the spell. The match was over, but the silent contest of wills lingered, echoing in the memory of every spectator long after the pieces were packed away. Under a sky powdered with falling snow, the annual fair buzzed with laughter and swirling lights. Children's boots crunched across the frosty ground, and music drifted from the carousel, mingling with the scent of roasted chestnuts and cinnamon. In the midst of the crowd, Ellie wandered, her cheeks pink from cold and hope flickering in her eyes. She clutched a faded poster. Milo, her beloved orange cat, had been missing for weeks. She paused by the cocoa stand, heart heavy, watching families share smiles and stories. Suddenly, a commotion near the ice sculpture caught her attention. A small, snow-dusted figure darted between legs and leapt onto a bench. Ellie's breath caught as bright green eyes met hers. "Milo!" she cried, voice trembling with disbelief and joy. The cat meowed softly, bounding into her arms, purring so fiercely it tickled her chin. Tears mingled with laughter as fairgoers cheered, and someone handed her a warm drink. Wrapped together in her scarf, Ellie and Milo watched the snowflakes dance around them. The world felt whole again, as if every twinkling light and drifting flake had guided Milo home, right in time for the magic of the fair. Eli pedaled through the drizzle, weaving carefully between puddles as he delivered parcels around the sprawling city. His last stop was an old, dimly lit hotel, where a sharply dressed man pressed a cold, heavy briefcase into his hands. "Room 409, no questions," the man said, his voice low and urgent. Then he vanished into the rain-soaked streets. Curious but cautious, Eli rode the creaky elevator to the 4th floor. He knocked on the door. Silence. He knocked again. Still nothing. The urge to peek was overwhelming. Setting the briefcase on a side table, he flicked open the latches. Inside, velvet lining cradled a single, unmarked envelope and a tiny silver key. Heart thumping, Eli hesitated, then pocketed the key and resealed the case. As he stepped into the hall, he noticed the elevator's security camera blinking red. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. Eli ducked into a shadowed stairwell, clutching the briefcase tightly. He realized then Whatever he was caught up in, it was far bigger than a simple delivery. Outside, the city lights flickered through the rain. Eli disappeared into the night, a secret tucked under his arm, and a new purpose burning fiercely in his chest. Beneath the old city's tangled alleys, a young messenger named Lila stumbled upon a peculiar brass key, its teeth shaped like clock gears. She recognized the symbol etched on its bow, a clockmaker's mark, long since faded from the city's memory. Curiosity overcame her caution, and she slipped the key into her pocket. Lila wandered the foggy streets, guided by a faint, inexplicable pull, until she found a forgotten door tucked between shuttered shops, its lock matching the key's intricate design perfectly. With a trembling hand, she turned the key. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow spiral staircase winding downward into darkness. Lila descended carefully, the air growing cooler with each step. At the bottom lay a chamber filled with ticking clocks of every shape and size, their golden hands moving in mesmerizing, synchronized patterns. In the center stood a clockmaker's bench, tools scattered like constellations across its surface. On the work table rested a half-finished mechanical bird, delicate and intricate. As Lila approached, the gears began to whir softly, and the bird blinked its tiny eyes. Then it sang a haunting melody that echoed through the hidden chamber, awakening memories of lost time and forgotten stories. Lila smiled, realizing she'd unlocked more than a door. She'd opened a forgotten world waiting patiently beneath the city's surface.
Under a silver moon, Pip the mouse squeezed through a narrow crack in the grand old mansion's heavy door. The air inside was thick with dust and the scent of forgotten years, but every wall pulsed with a steady tick, tick, tick that echoed softly through the vast rooms. Pip's whiskers twitched with growing curiosity as he followed the mysterious sound, his tiny paws silent on the polished wooden floor. He scurried beneath gilded chairs and leapt over forgotten chess pieces, always drawn forward by the rhythmic ticking that seemed alive. In the heart of the mansion, he found a vast hall, its ceiling lost in shadow and cobwebs. At the center stood a towering clockwork contraption, gears whirring and pendulums swinging in perfect harmony. Pip climbed the brass framework, dodging spinning cogs and slipping past tiny springs, until he reached a glowing crystal nestled at its heart. He pressed his nose gently to it, and the ticking slowed, then softened into a gentle, enchanting melody. Light spilled across the hall, illuminating faded portraits, hidden corners, and dust-covered treasures. The mansion, once silent and still, seemed to breathe again with life and warmth. Pip scampered back outside, the song of the ticking clock following him softly, a secret only he would ever know and cherish forever.
When the dust finally settled, Jed Harper found himself alone, his horse restless and the world painted in muted gold hues. His compass, an old brass relic passed down from his pa, was nowhere to be found. The fierce storm had snatched it clean from his saddlebag, leaving him without his trusted guide. Jed squinted at the sun, but the sky was thick and dull, the light diffused through lingering dust. Every direction looked the same, a vast sea of browns and yellows. He patted his pocket for the crumpled map, but it too was gone, lost to the storm's wrath. Fear nipped at his heels, but Jed swallowed it down, steadying his breath. He remembered the river's song, faint and steady, coming from the east. If he could find that river, he'd find his way back. Step by step, he listened, boots crunching over brittle sagebrush and scattered stones. When hope wavered, Jed thought of home. Ma's stew bubbling on the stove, laughter filling the lamplight-lit room. At last, the hush broke and the river's silver ribbon glimmered through the brush. Jed knelt, cupping the cool water, heart pounding with relief and gratitude. He stood, gaze fixed on the horizon beyond the flowing stream. He didn't need a compass to know which way to go. Home was waiting, and now, so was he. On a grand checkered field, two kingdoms faced each other under the silent gaze of the moon. White and black armies, Regal queens, towering rooks, and nimble knights stood poised, their numbers dwindled by fierce clashes. Only one pawn remained at the heart of the board, its fate hanging in delicate balance. The White King, weary from endless trials, whispered to his last loyal knight, "Guard that pawn, it holds our hope." Across the board, the Black Queen's eyes glittered with cold resolve. "Seize it, and the world is ours," she commanded. Knights clashed midfield, bishops darted, and rooks shielded the pawn with steadfast courage. In a final daring move, the white pawn advanced and reached the edge of the board. With a brilliant flash, it transformed into a radiant queen. Victory belonged not to the strongest, but to the one who cherished even the smallest piece, and believed in its potential to change everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic tales. Rain tapped steadily at the window as Maya rummaged through the attic, searching for her grandmother's old journals. Instead, she found a small iron-bound box tucked behind dusty suitcases. Its lock gleamed, unyielding in the dim light. Maya's fingers traced the intricate carvings along the lid, roses entwined with sharp thorns. She turned it over, hoping for a clue, but found only a faded sticker. For Maya, on a night you truly need it. Her heart pounded as she hunted for the key. Every drawer, every coat pocket, even the spaces beneath floorboards, nothing. The storm outside intensified, thunder rumbling as electricity flickered. Shadows danced wildly across the walls. Maya's curiosity grew into obsession. She remembered the grandfather clock downstairs, its old chime echoing through the silent house. Reaching behind it, her hand closed around a tiny brass key, cold and heavy. Breath held. She returned to the attic, slid the key into the lock, and turned it slowly. The box sprang open, revealing a single folded note. "Trust your instincts tonight." Suddenly, downstairs, the doorbell rang sharply, breaking the silence. On the 7:15 train to Belgrave, Evelyn clutched her battered brown suitcase tightly, eyes flickering nervously to the man in the gray coat sitting across the aisle. He carried a matching suitcase, but his was pristine. Polished leather, the kind you'd expect in a lawyer's hand, not a weary commuter's. The train rattled through the city, the hum of conversations blending with the clatter of wheels on tracks. Evelyn's stop was drawing near. She rose, and so did the man, both moving toward the sliding doors. Suddenly, the train lurched sharply. They collided, their suitcases tumbling to the floor, handles twisting and tangling. The man gave a quick, tight smile, snatched one case, and vanished into the crowd on the platform. Evelyn's heart pounded as she bent to retrieve the remaining suitcase. At home, she hesitated before clicking it open. Inside, instead of clothes, she found stacks of envelopes marked in strange code, a photograph of a clock tower, and a single black glove. She stared, pulse racing, realizing this was no accident. Somewhere in the city, a man in a gray coat would soon discover he had a suitcase full of laundry and a worn paperback. Evelyn closed the case, drew the curtains tight, and waited for the knock she knew would come. What if you could rewind childhood, living your early years over and over again? Imagine waking up each morning with the knowledge of every mistake, triumph, and secret from your previous loops. Would you chase new dreams or stick to familiar paths for comfort? Maybe you'd try to ace every test, finally stand up to that bully on the playground, or explore passions you once ignored. The freedom to repeat could mean endless chances to master a skill, mend friendships, or avoid regrets that once weighed heavily. But would the thrill of discovery fade if you always knew what's coming next? Over time, the smallest choices could ripple into wildly different futures, revealing how delicate and powerful each moment truly is. Perhaps you'd learn to appreciate the beauty in unpredictability, or become obsessed with crafting the perfect childhood. Would you value your memories more deeply, or would they blur together, losing their meaning and emotional weight? Rewinding the past might sound like the ultimate do-over, but it raises a powerful question. Is it the mistakes and surprises that truly shape who you become? If you could relive those years, would you change your story, or simply learn to cherish it more fully? Eli's hands trembled as he tightened the final bolt on his wooden wheels. In the quiet of his father's barn, blueprints scattered like feathers around him. He'd spent countless months shaping canvas and pine into something that might defy gravity. The village called him foolish, whispering doubts behind closed doors, but Eli saw only possibility in the endless sky above. At dawn, he climbed the tallest hill, heart pounding beneath his patched jacket, the cool morning air sharp against his skin. The wings, strapped tightly to his arms, felt heavier than hope itself. With a deep breath, Eli sprinted forward, wind whipping his hair wildly. At the edge, he leapt. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the wings caught the breeze. Eli soared unsteadily at first, then gliding smoothly above golden fields stretching far below. His laughter echoed as birds joined his side, curious companions in the vast blue. The ground rushed beneath him, but Eli's spirit never faltered. He landed in a tumble, mud-splattered and triumphant. The village gathered, wide-eyed and silent. Eli stood, wings battered but unbroken, and grinned. He had touched the sky, and proved that dreams, no matter how wild, could truly take flight. Imagine holding a rock that has journeyed through the cold vacuum of the cosmos, survived a fiery plunge through our atmosphere, and landed on Earth, a true messenger from the unknown. Meteorites are more than just fallen stones. They are time capsules, carrying secrets billions of years old. Some meteorites contain tiny grains that formed before our solar system even existed, offering a rare glimpse into the raw materials that built our world. Others hold amino acids, hinting at the building blocks of life arriving from far-off places. In 1969, a meteorite crashed near Murchison, Australia, scattering fragments that scientists discovered were rich in organic compounds. These remarkable findings sparked profound questions about life's origins and whether it might have cosmic roots. Each meteorite is a storyteller, revealing clues about ancient supernovas, planetary collisions, and the dynamic history of our solar neighborhood. Next time you see a shooting star streak across the sky, remember, some of these celestial travelers don't just light up the night, they land, bringing with them stories from beyond the skies. The river's surface shimmered under the morning sun, betraying nothing of the secret resting beneath its depths. For decades, townsfolk whispered about the old riverboat that vanished one stormy night, swallowed by the relentless current. When Lena, a determined historian armed with a battered notebook and a diver's courage, arrived, few believed she'd uncover anything new. On her third day, her sonar emitted a sharp ping on something large buried just beneath the thick silt. Heart-pounding, she donned her gear and slipped silently into the murky water. Slowly, the silhouette of the forgotten riverboat emerged, its paddle wheel frozen as if caught mid-turn. Inside, Lena's lantern revealed dusty crates, faded playing cards scattered on the floor, and a journal sealed carefully in oilskin. She surfaced, breathless and clutching the precious journal. That night, under the soft glow of her desk lamp, she translated the captain's final entry. It spoke of a fierce storm, a desperate maneuver to save the ship, and a solemn promise to return for a hidden treasure meant to save the struggling town. Lena realized the sunken vessel was far more than wreckage. It was a silent witness to hope, loss, and secrets waiting patiently to be told. At exactly midnight, the old sketchbook on Lucy's desk shivered softly. Its worn cover lifted ever so slightly, and a swirl of colored lines trickled across the page like a gentle breeze. Out popped a cat with a striped tail, stretching and yawning as if waking from a long nap. A paper ballerina spun elegantly, her delicate tutu fluttering with every graceful pirouette. Nearby, a dragon, sketched in vibrant green crayon, blinked awake and gave a gentle puff of chalky smoke that drifted lazily upward. The doodles gathered, exchanging curious glances before a tiny mouse tapped a painted piano's keys. Music spilled out, lively and sweet, filling the air with enchanting melodies. The ballerina leaped high, the cat twirled with delight, and even the dragon joined in, swaying its tail to the rhythm. Laughter and joy filled the sketchbook as pirates, robots, and whimsical trees all danced together, their lines glowing softly in the moonlight. As dawn approached, the music slowed to a gentle lullaby. One by one, the drawings yawned and tiptoed back to their places, settling down for another day of stillness. The sketchbook shut with a soft, contented sigh, patiently waiting for its next midnight adventure to begin. Rain hammered the deserted train platform, pooling around Jenna's trembling shoes. She clutched a crumpled note, delivered by a stranger in a dark coat who vanished before she could ask a single question. Find the vanished key before midnight. Trust no one. Her heart pounded as she scanned the empty benches, searching for any sign or clue. Suddenly, her eyes caught a faint glint beneath an old vending machine. Kneeling carefully, Jenna reached under and pulled out a small brass key, its surface etched with a single word, cellar. The station clock chimed 11, the sound echoing ominously. Every instinct screamed for her to leave, but an overwhelming curiosity drove her downstairs. In the dim basement, she found a locked door. The key slid in perfectly, turning with a soft click. Inside, a battered suitcase rested on the floor, dust motes swirling in the stale air. Jenna opened it, revealing faded letters and a photograph of a young woman, her mother, missing for years without a trace. The final envelope was addressed to her. "Jenna, find me. He's watching." Footsteps echoed above, sharp and deliberate. Jenna's pulse raced as shadows lengthened. With the suitcase clutched tightly, she slipped into the darkness, secrets unraveling with each hurried step into the unknown. Step into a realm where centuries-old tradition meets ethereal beauty. Kyoto after dark is pure enchantment. As dusk falls, lantern-lit paths wind through ancient temple grounds like Kiyomizu-dera and Nanzenji, their wooden halls glowing softly beneath the moonlight's gentle embrace. Stroll serene gardens where meticulously raked gravel shimmers silver and koi ponds mirror the night sky. The tranquil air scented with blossoming night flowers and the faint whisper of bamboo leaves. Experience the magic of Gion's historic streets, where geisha glides silently past tea houses, and the city's timeless spirit comes alive in every shadow and sound. Savor Kyoto's renowned kaiseki cuisine, each dish a delicate celebration of the season. Tender bamboo shoots in spring, chilled yuba in summer, earthy matsutake mushrooms in autumn, and warming udofu in winter's chill. Don't miss street-side stalls offering freshly grilled yakitori or sweet yatsuhashi, their aromas mingling with the cool night air. Whether meditating in a moss-covered garden, sipping matcha in a centuries-old tea house, or wandering under moonlit cherry blossoms, Kyoto's nights promise a journey into a world both mystical and unforgettable. Meet Nibbles, the world's first time-traveling hamster. One day, while exploring his owner's cluttered lab, Nibbles accidentally chewed through a bundle of wires, triggering a hidden time machine. Zap! In a flash, he lands smack dab on Thomas Edison's cluttered desk in 1879. Edison, startled, watches the tiny hamster spin furiously in his wheel and exclaims, "Eureka! The secret to unlimited energy is tiny rodents." Before Edison can invent a hamster-powered light bulb, Nibbles vanishes again, this time appearing in Leonardo da Vinci's workshop. Leonardo, mid-sketch of his flying machine, spots Nibbles darting across his blueprints. Inspired, he adds a hamster wheel and a carrot dispenser, convinced this is the missing piece to flight. Next stop, 1969, the moon landing. As Neil Armstrong steps onto the lunar surface, he notices Nibbles gnawing on a moon rock and mutters, "Houston, we have a hamster?" Finally, Nibbles returns home, leaving his owner bewildered by a pile of strange blueprints, a hamster-powered light bulb, a Mona Lisa on a spinning wheel, and a lunar cheese dispenser. The moral? Never underestimate a hamster with a taste for adventure and a knack for causing invention chaos. Imagine living in a city where the river itself became a weapon against its people. In the sweltering summer of 1858, London was brought to its knees by a catastrophe now known as the Great Stink. For decades, the city's waste flowed directly into the Thames, turning it into an open sewer. But that summer, a brutal heat wave intensified the stench, creating a foul miasma that invaded homes, offices, and even the Houses of Parliament. Lawmakers tried soaking curtains in chloride of lime to mask the odor, but nothing worked. The stink was so overpowering that government business ground to a halt, with politicians desperate to escape the unbearable smell. Public health was at risk, and the threat of cholera outbreaks loomed large. Finally, authorities heeded the warnings of engineer Joseph Bazalgette, who proposed an ambitious underground sewage system to divert waste far from the city. Construction began almost immediately, revolutionizing urban sanitation and engineering. The Great Stink forced London to confront its filth head-on, ultimately saving the city from recurring deadly diseases and setting a global standard for modern sanitation. One unbearable summer changed the course of urban history forever. Listen up! The world's been slapping labels on you since you could crawl. Too loud, too quiet, too weird, too ambitious. They've built boxes, neat little prisons disguised as comfort zones, meant to shrink you down to bite-sized, manageable, forgettable. But here's the truth. You are not a barcode. You're a lightning storm. You weren't born for their categories, and you sure as hell weren't designed for their approval. Every time you let someone's label stick, you hand over your power. Rip those suckers off, smash the boxes, get messy, make people uncomfortable. Because the only thing worse than being misunderstood is fitting in so well that you disappear. The world wants you predictable because it's terrified of what you might become if you go off script. So go off script, redefine the damn script, be the plot twist no one saw coming. Tear up the rule book, rewrite the narrative, and refuse to be anything less than a full-blown revolution. This is your permission slip to rebel against the labels, to become so unapologetically yourself that the world has no choice but to rewrite the dictionary. Now go, break the box. When the clock strikes 12 and the world grows quiet, a silvery moonbeam slips through the attic window, gently waking the moon mice from their cozy nests. With a shimmer of whiskers and a sparkle in their bright eyes, they gather beneath the glowing moon, ready for their magical midnight parade. The leader, Sir Pipkin, wears a tiny blue hat and waves his feathered baton with great excitement. At his signal, the mice twirl ribbons made from shimmering starlight and tap their tiny paws in perfect harmony. Luna, the youngest and most curious, rides atop a thimble chariot pulled by two velvet-tailed friends. As they weave through the sleeping house, their laughter is soft as dewdrops, and their shadows dance playfully along the walls. They visit the old grandfather clock, leaving a trail of silver dust that sparkles like fairy lights, and tiptoe past the pantry where a crumbly biscuit waits for a secret nibble. Along the way, they share stories and gentle smiles, their bond growing stronger with every step. At the grand finale, the moon mice gather in a circle, paws linked tightly, and sing a gentle, soothing song that drifts out the window all the way to the moon itself. When dawn peeks in, the mice curl up together, hearts warm from their wondrous adventure, and drift into sweet dreams, resting peacefully until the next moonlit night calls them once more. Have you ever noticed how often conversations feel like two people just waiting for their turn to speak? Here's a life pro tip that can transform your connections with everyone around you. Practice active listening. Instead of simply hearing words, focus on truly understanding what the other person is saying. Start by making eye contact and putting away distractions like phones or background noise. When someone speaks, listen with the intent to understand, not just to reply or plan your next comment. Nod, paraphrase what you've heard, and ask clarifying questions to ensure you grasp their meaning. This shows the speaker you genuinely value their thoughts and feelings. It's easy to underestimate how powerful it is to make someone feel truly heard. Active listening not only helps prevent misunderstandings, but also builds trust and respect over time. People are naturally drawn to those who genuinely pay attention and respond thoughtfully. The more you practice, the more you'll notice others opening up to you and sharing more deeply. Your ability to listen deeply can be the key to unlocking stronger bonds, smoother communication, and a more supportive environment wherever you go. Thunder rumbled over Maple Street as rain hammered the city, flooding sidewalks and sending people scurrying for shelter. In the middle of downtown, a small cardboard box shivered beneath a bus stop bench. Inside, 3 tiny kittens mewled softly, their fur soaked and eyes wide with fear. Passers-by hurried past, umbrellas pressed low, barely noticing the desperate cries. Suddenly, a figure in a billowing red cape appeared, boots splashing through puddles with purpose. With swift, gentle hands, the stranger knelt and carefully scooped up the box, tucking it beneath the shelter of their cape. The kittens huddled closer, instantly soothed by the warmth and safety. The caped figure smiled softly, their face hidden behind the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. Moving quickly but calmly, they dashed across the street to the local bakery, where the owner greeted them with a warm wave. Inside, towels, warm milk, and laughter filled the air as the kittens began to purr, safe at last. Outside, the rain eased to a gentle drizzle, and the caped stranger vanished as quietly as they had arrived, leaving only small paw prints and grateful hearts behind. Rain pattered softly against the windows of the little bookstore, the scent of old paper and ink swirling in the air. Anna lingered between shelves, her fingertips brushing faded spines, searching for a story to warm her heart on this gloomy afternoon. As she reached for a peculiar, leather-bound volume tucked away in a shadowed corner, her hand collided with another. She looked up, startled, to find a young man with gentle eyes and an apologetic smile. "Sorry," he whispered, pulling his hand back slowly. The book glowed faintly between them, a soft golden light pulsing like a heartbeat. Together, they opened the cover. A breeze, warm and fragrant as spring, swept through the shop, carrying whispered words and fluttering pages. The room shimmered, and suddenly the shelves rearranged themselves, revealing hidden alcoves and forgotten stories waiting to be discovered. Anna laughed in wonder. The young man grinned, his eyes sparkling with the same delight. They wandered through the transformed aisles, sharing tales and dreams, each step drawing them closer in a quiet, unspoken understanding. As the rain slowed outside, the magic gently faded, but a new story had begun, one neither of them could have predicted.
Maggie found the photograph wedged between pages of an old ledger in the town's shuttered library. The image, sepia-toned and brittle, showed a group of townsfolk gathered around a tree, their faces solemn and serious. Behind them, a large building she didn't recognize loomed, its windows dark and empty. Intrigued, Maggie carefully dusted off the ledger and discovered handwritten notations dated 80 years prior. Determined to learn more, she set out with her grandfather's vintage film camera, retracing the photograph's scene. At the spot, she found only wild grass swaying in the breeze and an eerie silence. The mysterious building was gone without a trace. She visited the oldest resident, Mrs. Elkins, who squinted at the photo and whispered, "That's the orphanage. Burned down in '43. The town never spoke of it again." Maggie's curiosity deepened, leading her to the dusty archives, where she pieced together forgotten news clippings and faded records. The orphanage fire, once a devastating tragedy, had been quietly erased from memory. With each developed frame, Maggie revived the past, finally displaying the photograph at the town square, inviting everyone to remember what had long been hidden.
Rain drummed softly against the old wooden crate where the tiny kitten shivered. Its fur was matted, its belly empty, and every shadow seemed to whisper danger. One chilly morning, a gentle hand reached in, offering a small bowl of warm milk. The kitten shrank back, eyes wide with fear, but hunger nudged it forward. The milk tasted like comfort, and the hand withdrew slowly, leaving the kitten to drink in peace. Each day, the hand returned. Sometimes it brought a soft blanket, sometimes a toy that jingled with a cheerful sound. The kitten watched from a dark corner, inching closer with each visit, curiosity growing alongside caution. The shelter was bright and filled with strange scents, but there was a softness here the kitten had never known before. One quiet afternoon, the hand settled nearby, palm open and still. After a long pause, the kitten crept forward, pressed its nose into the warmth, and felt the steady thrum of a heartbeat beneath the skin. For the first time, the world didn't seem so cold or lonely. The kitten curled up beside the hand, eyes fluttering closed, and dared to dream of tomorrow's promise. In a city painted only in shades of gray, a small mechanical cat ticked softly through empty alleys. Its metal paws echoed gently, gears whirring with each careful step. The city's people moved like shadows, their eyes dulled by the sameness that blanketed every street and building. But one quiet morning, as the sun struggled to pierce the heavy cloudy sky, the cat discovered a single fallen feather near a cracked sidewalk. Unlike anything else in the city, the feather shimmered faintly with a delicate blush of blue. Mesmerized, the cat touched the feather lightly with its cold nose. Instantly, a spark leapt from its delicate whiskers, and the blue spread, first to the feather, then to the cat's own tail, which began to glow with a gentle azure light. Wherever the cat walked, Tiny footprints of color bloomed behind, trailing shades of turquoise, rose, and gold. Children noticed and followed, eyes wide with wonder, laughter bubbling up as color returned to their dull world. The mechanical cat, once unnoticed and forgotten, became a shining beacon. In its wake, the city blossomed with vibrant hues, and for the first time in memory, hope was painted everywhere. Crimson circle, crimson stain, take away the fear and pain, the children chanted, their voices echoing through the abandoned playground. The dusk sun cast long, sinister shadows as they held hands, forming a perfect ring on the cracked asphalt. In the center, a faded chalk circle glowed faintly, smeared with something red. Sarah noticed the stains first, dark, fresh, seeping from the cracks, dampening her sneakers. She tried to let go, but the hands tightened, nails digging into her skin. The chant grew louder, faster. One by one, the children's eyes glazed over, rolling white, mouths moving in unison. Sarah screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the chant. The red liquid crept up their shoes, staining their socks, then their knees. The circle pulsed, hungry. Suddenly, the ground inside the ring split open with a wet, sucking noise. The first child vanished, yanked beneath the surface, leaving only a crimson splash. Sarah felt the pull at her ankles. The grip on her hands was unbreakable. As she was dragged down, the last thing she saw was the remaining children, faces painted with blood, still chanting, "Crimson circle, crimson stain."